Out of all the original content that DC Universe has released so far, I think Doom Patrol is probably my favorite. And honestly, I can see this even becoming my all-time favorite superhero TV show. Doom Patrol is all about a group of misfits who've suffered terrible accidents, resulting in many of the members being left horribly disfigured and mentally scarred from their trauma. This family of unlikely allies lives in Doom Manor, where they're mentored and led by Professor Niles Calder, the Chief. But unlike most superheroes, these guys don't really save the day at all. In fact, these guys can hardly save themselves half the time. But that's part of the charm and appeal of these guys. They're such a dysfunctional team that it's pretty much impossible not to root for them. The show does a really great job adapting the psychedelic aesthetic of Grant Morrison's run from the 90s. The show is trippy and philosophical and always leaves you wanting more. The plot is really interesting and the characters are super well written and compelling, and the special effects are really well put together too. Grant Morrison is my all-time favorite writer, and he's written some of my favorite comic books like All-Star Superman, Multiversity, and his entire run of Batman. So honestly, I couldn't be happier to see an adaptation of his work done so well. But just be aware, if you're looking for any sort of cohesion or sense in the plot, you probably won't find it. But that's the point. If you don't like Doom Patrol, don't force yourself to try. Like a lot of Grant Morrison's work in general, it's either something you'll love or something you'll hate. So don't feel bad if it's not for you, because the show definitely is not made for everyone. But that being said, it feels like it was made for people exactly like me. And honestly, that's what made me fall in love with the show. The fact that there's nothing else really like it. Robot Man's arc over the first episode was so emotional and heart-wrenching. From watching him retake his first steps to the whole sequence that takes place from his perspective. Robot Man's story was one of the first superhero origins in a long time to actually tug at my heartstrings. And it was the first origin in a long time that I've actually cared about. And that's saying a lot given how much super stuff I regularly get into. Like Robot Man, Elasti-Woman and Negative Man both have their own tragic origins too. And like Robot Man, they're both equally heart-wrenching and add a whole nother layer of emotional depth to the characters. Especially once the villain is introduced and they're made aware that there may be more to their beloved professor than they've ever realized. Now, one of my few complaints about the show is Crazy Jane. Some of Crazy Jane's alternate personas just feel downright obnoxious and distracting. Crazy Jane is easily the weakest part of the show, but I think that, given time, she could really grow into a character worth caring about. Oh yeah, and M. Night Shyamalan totally ripped this character off when he made Split. I just want to throw that out there. The supervillain of the show is pretty badass. His name is Mr. Nobody, and he's constantly breaking the fourth wall. The Grant Morrison influence is stronger than in any comic adaptation I've ever seen.
Our merry band of misfits were not equipped for grand acts of heroism just yet.
That was a finesse the dear old daddy hadn't bothered to teach them.
Who are you talking to?
Grant Morrison fans, Reddit trolls with DC subscriptions, and the 3 new fans who stuck around after the donkey fart.
You still think you control this story, don't you?
Haven't seen any evidence to the contrary, old friend.
The hypercrisis lives and breathes through this show. Like his run in the 90s, the show deals with themes of isolation and depression, as well as what it feels like to be an outcast in a world that won't accept you for who you are. This is a show that constantly makes you question your perception of the world around you, and constantly reminds you that things aren't always as they seem. This is the first show I've ever seen that's featured characters as flawed and damaged as I felt at times, and I love it for that. This is a show about loneliness and freaks, but somehow that made me feel less alone and less like a freak. So make of that what you will, I guess. And just keep in mind, I've written all this great stuff about the show, and I've only actually seen 4 episodes. So don't take my word for it. Go ahead and just tune in, drop out, and catch up on some Doom Patrol, because I promise you'll be in for a good time. Thanks for checking out the video, everyone. This is actually an extended excerpt from a much larger video that's coming out soon. In that video, I'm going to review DC Universe as a whole and let you know if I think the streaming service is worth it or not. So be sure to subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on that. I know I haven't been uploading much lately, and that's because I've just finished moving. So now that I'm done with that, I'm trying to update some of the general artwork, channel graphics, and the aesthetical choices of the channel. But all in all, I can promise you there's more content coming soon. Right now I'm working on about 6 videos, all of which should come out before the end of the summer. I took about a month or 2 away from uploading so I could get all these finished before I uploaded any of them. And as of this moment, they're all at least halfway edited. I wanted to spend as much time as possible making these videos as best as I can possibly make them, because I want this to mark the beginning of a new era for superswimteam7. So, welcome to Volume 2, the all-new superswimteam7. I've even started a second channel where I'm sharing more content as well as occasional streams. So be sure to subscribe to superswimteam7 too if you haven't already. I'd really like to know what you thought about Doom Patrol in the comments down below, and if you want to have a conversation about it, then send me a tweet about it at superswimteam7 on Twitter. I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao!